Okay, so it's time for another story time. This is story time. So, as many of you guys, I'm sure you know, that there's been a major migration to Miami over the past, I don't know, 4 to 6 months maybe, mostly due to COVID, right? So, because COVID has completely affected people's lives, people's lifestyle, particularly in cities that have taken COVID really seriously, like Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York City. A lot of individuals have been moving here, at least for the winter, but also a lot of people have been moving permanently, like buying a place here, investing in Miami real estate. And I've also been learning that a lot of companies, particularly tech companies, are moving here. Again, COVID has been the catalyst for this. There's a lot of benefits to living in Florida. There's no state taxes, and the COVID regulations here are, you forget that COVID is like a pandemic living here in Miami. Like, other than seeing occasional masks on, and when you go inside to a place, you have to have a mask on. But beyond that, like, you forget there's a pandemic because there's still like an ocean of people everywhere you go. I run on the boardwalk by the beach, and in the middle of the day, I will hear music like uns, uns, uns coming from the hotels on one side of the boardwalk, because the boardwalk is like ocean on one side, the beach, and then on the other side there's this strip of hotels, and they'll have pool parties in the middle of the day, and there's a ton of people everywhere. So like, COVID is just not taken seriously here, and as a result, a lot of people are moving here, migrating here, because they're like, F it, we're sick of like living under these strict guidelines for a year at this point. We're gonna live our lives. So I say all that to say that I've been meeting quite a few people who really live full-time in New York City or San Francisco or some of these other cities, Los Angeles. So interestingly, most of the people I hang out with right now at this point don't even live here full-time, which is probably not good for me, because then once they bounce, I'll be, on my own. But I enjoy their company, and strangely, most of them have been straight people. So I've been hanging out with more straight people recently than I have since college, like about 10 years ago. I haven't been around a majority of straight people all the time since then. So it's been like a weird spin of events. A part of me is like, oh, I forgot what this was like. This is good. I should be around a variety of people. And then another part of me is like, we have such different interests and experiences, which isn't a bad thing, but it's like, they always want to go to straight places, because why would they want to go to a gay bar? And then I'm like, all right, I guess I'll come with you guys, but I want to meet gay men too, both platonically, romantically, whatever. So this is what this story is about. I went to a straight bar. And it's not like it's the first straight bar I've been to in years and years and years. I've obviously been to other, venues. I don't know if it was that there was something in the air that I could feel more of a flirtatious vibe from the men and the women towards each other. And I was just more observant of it. And I very much felt that I was a fish out of water. So we go out with this group of straight friends to a very sort of typical Miami nightlife spot, which was it was basically like a lounge, a bar lounge in a hotel, which is very common here because there's so many hotels that cater to the nightlife crowd. And it was a little like, in typical Miami fashion, a little what they call in the Real Housewives of Atlanta, bougie ghetto, meaning they made a fake room in this huge lobby. They made a fake room out of curtains, so like humongous, because it's, a lot of high ceilings in Miami Beach hotels, like the nicer hotels. Huge curtain, round curtain, and they made this like round room, kind of like a club scene. And once you come in through the curtain, you feel like you're in a club, like it was a huge room, but it was like a fakely made club or lounge within the hotel. By the way, I would hate to stay at a hotel like that, because I can't imagine how the guests above don't hear the loud music and stuff. But anyway, as soon as we come in, typical sort of straight, sort of uppity vibe, where it was three guys, my friend group, three of us, and then one female friend. And so she quickly made the lead, because she knew that, they're used to this. Like, straight people know how this works, right? Like, if there's a chick involved, it's easier to get in. And of course, that's what happened. She kind of led the way, and they let us in. And then, of course, later in the night, one of the guys and myself went to the bathroom, which was like 10 feet away, but we had to exit out of the little area. By the way, they had like a velvet rope situation outside. I'm like, this is so silly. Like, this is not VIP. This is a lounge inside a hotel. Whatever. They had a velvet rope, so we had to exit out of that. And when we came back, again, 10 feet away, the bathroom. We clearly just exited like 3 minutes ago. Trying to come in, and we follow in behind this girl who I think was also exiting or coming back from the bathrooms. And they let her in, and the guy hesitantly kind of like puts the velvet rope back, and he's like, you guys have to go in through the entrance. And I'm like, we just came out. Like, we just went to the bathroom. He's like, oh, really? Like, you were in here? And I was like, yeah. And then he let us in. But that sort of set the tone for how I felt the whole night. Like, being a gay person who now is so used to most of my social life revolving in terms of like going out, being gay bars, you forget that like in the real world, you know, they say it's a man's world, but like women run the show in these situations. It's all about like, do you bring female value to this situation? So I come back in with my friend, and in my head I'm bitter. I'm like, I'm cuter than half the fucking girls here, okay? Like, this is so silly. Luckily, we didn't have to pay cover. Now, that would have pissed me off. When I went to Vegas, fall of 2019, and it was my first time going to Vegas as like an adult to do adult things. Like, the only other time I'd been to Vegas was as a kid with family, which obviously is like a very unusual Vegas, like not a typical Vegas experience. I went to visit my friend back in 2019 who lives there, who's a female, and we went to a strip club, my first time at a strip club. I didn't even want to be there. It's like, why would I want to be around a bunch of scantily clad women? And they made me pay cover because I was a guy, and I was so annoyed because, again, I was like, I'm probably bringing more value than half the people who are coming in who aren't paying a cover. So anyway, in this bar, it was kind of a mind fuck for me because, to be honest, I was attracted to like half the men there, which never happens to me at a gay bar. At a gay bar, at most, there's like a few guys that I'm like genuinely very attracted to. And sometimes I go to a gay bar and I'm not really attracted to anybody. So to be in an environment where I'm like, wow, there's a lot of hot guys here. And it was the kind of crowd that I always associated with Miami. Like, I thought moving to Miami, this is like what I would always be around. Not that it's like very sophisticated men, but they're just like more sort of suave and polished. They dress very sexy, but in like a casual, casual sexy way. Sun-kissed skin. The thing is, we're in a straight environment. So like, I just always assume these men are straight. So I made eye contact with actually a few guys there. But in my mind, I'm like, it could just be that our eyes met at that one moment, or they like think they recognize me from somewhere. Like, it didn't register in my mind that it could actually be an attraction, or at least I didn't feel comfortable pursuing it in any way because you never know. And a lot of that, I guess, is childhood complexes and fears that like you don't know how somebody will respond if they're not definitely gay. Like, if it's not a gay environment, like a gay app or a gay bar, like, you don't know, somebody could get weirded out, somebody could be like, why the fuck are you talking to me? Like, I don't know. So it was weird for me to be in an environment where I'm pleasantly surprised by how attracted I am to the crowd, but like, I don't know if I can engage with them in that way. And then of course there's the female element. There's all these women around, and I was very observant, like of my whole environment. I almost felt like a kid at his first like middle school dance, where he's like intrigued that suddenly like libido is a part of childhood, but who's like still going through puberty and is like, what is happening? Like, that's how I felt. I was very perceptive to how much thirst there was, both among men and women there, but also how there were some people who were just living off of the high of other people's thirst, like loving the attention, but they weren't really eager for anything themselves. They're just like there to be seen, kind of. So it was just bizarre. Like, I felt kind of uncomfortable, to be honest. I felt this weird anxiety about being judged by women there who might not know that I'm gay and might falsely think that I'm interested, or that I'm like eager to flirt with them the way that a lot of men there were thirsty. And then this anxiety around being around men who I'm attracted to, but that it doesn't feel like the appropriate situation to potentially flirt with. So I kind of felt like a eunuch. Like I don't know how to interact with the women, and I don't know how to interact with the men. Again, this is not my first time in a non-gay environment, you know, recently, but I guess it was the first time maybe that it was a very social environment. It was very busy, and most people were standing. So it's like, it's not like a sit-down environment where you don't have to instantly rely on like social cues, and you don't necessarily have to talk to strangers. Like here, you naturally bumped into people, make eye contact with people, and so on. So for example, we went to get a drink at the bar, and this girl starts talking to my friend, my male friend, and she was very friendly, and she seemed flirty, so I was like, I guess she's into him. Later on, I'm not hearing the whole conversation. Later on, you know, she leaves, whatever, and my friend goes, she was asking me to buy her a drink. She was like, come on, you should buy me a drink. And I was like, oh, like, how tacky is that? So that's what I mean by the thirst. A part of me feels like it's good for me to put myself in situations like that, because the discomfort and the lack of like experience with it, because I haven't been in environments like that since college. In college, I was constantly in straight environments, right? Like the few regular bars that we could find that didn't card us because when we were under 21. Of course, none of them were gay bars, and none of my friends wanted to go to gay bars. They were all straight. So back then, this was very normal for me, and you just get used to it. In life, I think you can get used to anything. But most of my 20s, you know, as soon as I turned 21, I started going to gay bars by myself, because I was like, F this, like I want to be around people I can like build a community with, people I can date, people I can befriend that are more similar to the childhood that I've had and my life experiences and all that. So part of me is like, it's good to put myself in those situations to remember and to not get like rusty in terms of interacting with people who are different from me, and to be, you know, in different environments that where maybe I'm not as advantageous or whatever. But at the same time, a part of me felt very uneasy, and I don't know what the right word is, maybe unwanted. Not that like every time I go to a gay bar I get hit on or I get free drinks or whatever, but like there's just a comfort now that I feel at gay bars, because I don't feel insecure or out of place. I feel like I belong there. And in this environment that we went to, this straight lounge, whatever, I did not feel like I belonged there. And I felt like I stood out awkwardly. And so obviously all this is like, you know, complexes in your own head. The next morning I was like, how foolish of me to assume that everyone in there had to be straight. And I think that's part of a problem now, that it's registered in my head that is very black and white, that gay people only exist on apps and in gay bars. And that's like such a foolish mentality. But I think in the moment I was just, you know, inebriated, and you're in an environment that's mixed in terms of like being heterosexual, like half women, maybe even more women than men, and it's almost like I have to compartmentalize, like, oh, now I'm in a straight environment, so I have to act X, Y, and Z. Anyway, so the next morning I was like, why would I think that? And for all I know, the guys that I did make eye contact with, like, there could have been something there. I actually have a few friends who are gay / I guess fluid, bisexual, whatever. They don't use the apps. They don't use Grindr. They don't use Tinder. They don't have the patience for it. And they don't particularly love the gay bars. So they only go to places like that, and they meet guys there. So for whatever reason, the night of, here I am in this weird, uncomfortable mindset. And the next day I was like, wait a minute. Like, I should be taking advantage of environments like this to kind of see what the crowd is like. Because frankly, those venues are so much nicer than gay bars. Like, somebody told me this, I think like 6 months ago, a gay friend, and I never forgot it. And I was like, you're so right. Like, gay bars are never sophisticated, like cool bar environments. They tend to be kind of like trashy settings. And you would think it wouldn't be that way, because I feel like there is a stereotype that gay men are like very polished and clean and, you know, even OCD-ish. You would think gay bars would be nicer venues, but they tend to be like very trashy dive bars. The very nice venues in Miami are always heterosexual, you know, like mixed groups. Anyway, I'm just sounding off on this, but would love to hear what you guys think.